It was a 1-2 gut punch for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers this week. Looks like Aaron got his wish, as it was literally him versus the Tampa Bay defense. Plus, we'll talk about bye week hangovers and why the Packers play better without Tay. It's all next on your Packers Fan Podcasts. I'm back.
Welcome back and go Pack Go. Me, I'm Wayne Henderson, and this is episode 211 of your Packers Fan Podcast. And well, at least the pressure to go undefeated is gone. Scott Clark not able to join us this week because of his trip to pick up his stepfather. However, he confirms and wanted you to know that he did have his Packers gear on at kickoff and did watch the opening 2 drives. So the loss is not his fault. So in the meantime, coming in hot, joining us to help get the Pack back on track, Sir Troy Heinrichs.
Thank you. Run of applause. No, I'm just kidding. I probably have better game than Aaron this week. That's for sure. What? I am Troy Heinrichs, and I'm going to just be honest right now and just say it was my fault because I did not wear my colors this week watching the game. I did have throwback colors on because that's what usually happens in October. So I did have my throwback colors on, but I did not have standard green and gold for the away contest. Plus, I did a no-no. I did not watch any of the fourth quarter. So much like the offensive line this week, I am not qualified to be on this podcast this week.
Well, I made the perfect phone call then, didn't I?
Hey, could you come do a podcast? And by the way, don't watch half the game. It was just so painful. But we'll go over a couple things we did like, and of course, all the stuff that we didn't from the game in Tampa, plus go over the injury news as well.
And then we're going to be previewing next week's Packers at Texans game, including Troy's keys to a Packer victory. We could sure use one of those to clean the palate. We also have your great listener voicemails, emails, comments from social media, and more. And hey, there was a cool touchdown from Aaron Jones early in the game.
Oh, I forgot. That was Aaron's touchdown, not Aaron's touchdown.
Yeah, we had a little premature celebration, and then it got called back. And that's the worst when you do those celebrations. If you're not 100% sure, it's just going to spiral downhill.
Well, it's difficult to remember because if you don't know that the rule actually happened 2 years ago, so that if a quarterback goes down on a knee, basically, or a leg, or literally falls forward, falling forward now is the same thing as falling backward or sliding to give yourself up. So I think Aaron just kind of forgot about it, or he tripped. I'm not sure which one, but
it was very, very interesting. But at least somebody got a touchdown, and of course, we did have Mason Crosby's field goal. That was nice.
Well, I was going to say, and on the touchdown, at least we were able to actually punch it in from the 1 yard line for a change.
That was good to see.
That is a positive.
Troy, looking at the positives already. I like it.
Yes, Mason putting us up at 10-0, and you're like, man, this game's going to be cake. And then it all went to hell.
I was feeling vastly overconfident for a little while.
The big thing about this whole thing was I was kind of bummed. I have Packers-Bears tickets this year, and I had to give them up because no fans allowed in Green Bay right now. Or I'm sorry. Well, they're not allowed indefinitely, which I seriously hate that term.
Yeah.
Like, Alan Lazard is out indefinitely. What does it mean? Just say what it means. All you have to say is, we don't know when he's going to be back.
Yeah, it's like at the end of season 1 of Under the Dome, that Under the Dome will return indefinitely.
Which makes it sound like, oh my God, it's going to come back. But no, the big thing for me is that I was really nervous about the whole COVID situation because Wayne and I have this ongoing thing where, 2014, man, the tickets were literally on the phone with the ticket agent to go to the Super Bowl. And I was like, if this is the year that we go undefeated for the first time for Wayne, and we have the chance of having the 19-0 perfect season, and I can't go to the Super Bowl, I'm going to be so pissed off. So at least, don't have to worry about that anymore. 18-1 is still pretty good.
Yeah, 18-1 is still pretty good. And of course, Longtime Stephen King fans would know that 19-0 can bring its own issues.
Hell, 18-1 could bring its own issues. Look, we won 15-1 in 2011 and couldn't get past the Giants. I only bring that I was there. That's why. It's like
that would hurt.
But AJ Dillon finally getting out on the field again. That's nice.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a lot more of him, just because I'd like to see them rotate all three of them, because when he comes on the field, you can just tell that something is different.
Well, I think they should be lining up like Jones and Williams as a receiver and then bring Dillon in as the back. I don't know what I haven't seen enough of him, so I don't know what his pass blocking capabilities are. If they were to fake the handoff to Dillon and then let him be a pass blocker. But I go back to 2 weeks ago, and it was literally Williams and Jones out of the backfield catching the ball like all over the map. And I think that's something that the Packers offense desperately needs, is to have the running back be part of the passing game, because man, EQ was like, I don't even know why that guy was out there, to be honest. No offense to EQ. He worked hard to get back to healthy, but this is not the game I would have been bringing EQ back for.
Yeah, it didn't work out quite right. There were just so many head-scratching moments. I mean, not only are my dreams of an undefeated season shot to heck, so much for AR-12 being the only quarterback without an interception this year, and he gets practically 2 in a row. So with that, there went my dreams of a shutout against the Buccaneers. That second interception looked like it was partially Devontae's fault, but who knows?
I have to stop you there. Okay, I've put up with your crap long enough that you're thinking you're going to pick 16-0 every single year for the schedule. But did you really think that you were going to get a Tampa Bay shutout with Tom Brady? Like, I understand that that'd be something you would do, Wayne, but come on.
I didn't pick that it was going to be a shutout, but at the moment when we were up 10-0 and everything was rolling along great, I thought that it could happen at that point.
Okay. At least it was a dream and not an actual pick, because then I'd have to test you for COVID.
Fair enough.
It's delirious.
Very.
But I mean, the biggest thing about this whole thing was just, I don't know if it was when he went for the touchdown and he fell just short, and then he got hit, right? Something tells me like he got some kind of a mild concussion or something scrambled his brain a little bit on that hit, because ever since that, when he came down and then of course did the Key and Peele move for the dance, it was like he just wasn't the same the rest of the game. He was off by inches, and just timing was bad. And I mean the whole interception to Tay was just like I couldn't even, like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in Chicago and I could have picked that ball off, because he telegraphed all the way that he was going in that direction. So, and then to come back and have him throw to Tay again, and then Tay tips the ball off of his fingers so that he did, and then it just happenstance falls into somebody else. So I don't fault Rodgers on the second one per se, but I think the biggest thing is that, if they don't constantly force it to Tay, you don't have the situation. There are so many other places to go with the ball on the field. Why are you always looking to Tay as number one? Just because he is number one doesn't mean you look to Tay as number one. Look at Tom Brady. Mike Evans is clearly the number one receiver on the Buccaneers. And he got 2 catches, 10 yards total, because Jari's amazing. But, I mean, I was just like, I assumed he was going to get something. He's the number one receiver, right? I started him in my fantasy team, even though they were playing against the Packers. But at the end of the day, I was just like there are other people on the team. Tom Brady took advantage of other people, and he woke Gronk up from his nap and finally got him going. So why can't we do the same thing as the Packers organization? Why is it every time Tay is out with an injury? This goes back to last season too, right? Tay was out last year too. We're out, we go on a tear. And then the minute Tay comes back into the lineup, all of a sudden it's like Tay all day and everybody else is like garbage. And we go into a slump. And I'm kind of tired of it.
Especially since the first 4 games of this year were pretty much on fire. I mean, not perfect, but we were on fire, unlike a lot of games last year, even though we did win. But this post-bye week game, and Devontae Adams coming back game really was like a repeat from last year.
Yeah. And I mean, and it just goes without saying that you have to look at the whole field. Like, look at those first 4 games. Now, granted, Tay wasn't in 2 of them, I think it was. But even when Tay was in the game, the ball was being spread around and we're getting the ball out much quicker. This game looked like Aaron Rodgers hanging onto the football, looking for the big play, trying to show off a little bit. And clearly because he pulled out Key and Peele for his dance. I mean, that is clearly something that you're like trying to make a statement by pulling that out of the hat, if you will. I mean, it just did not feel like the first 4 games of the season. It looked like a completely different game plan. And I think that this is very similar. I mean, you can't call it a streak yet because it's only LaFleur's second season, right? But we had the same problem last year. We came off the bye week and we literally, stunk up the joint to San Francisco. And here we come off the bye week and we stink up the joint to Tampa Bay. So what's the whole reason of doing this whole thing in the first place? Go on a bye week because you polish out the things that are broken in the first 4 weeks of the season. And then you actually finally, have it all click, right? The defense should have been better, which the defense was. Kenny Clark coming back this week. So that's another high point, is that we did stop the run. I think that's something that we were kind of nervous about, right before the bye. But there's just a lot of stuff in this game that makes you scratch your head and go, what did you guys do for 2 weeks?
And I know it's certainly not an excuse, Troy, but I wonder if, because it wasn't a traditional bye week where the guys could actually go on vacation, go down to Mexico or whatever and get out of town. They all, I think, had to stay in Green Bay and just avoid people. Maybe it messed with their heads. I mean, there's no excuse, though. They're highly paid professionals, but something was just not right. I'm glad we've got it out of the way.
We had a bye week here and we're still coming back on fire. We still sat around and didn't have all the go home and visit friends and travel and all that other fun stuff. So
that's for sure.
We sound like you're being negative, but really you have to question some of this stuff because it's a very repetitive sequence from last season at this point in juncture after a bye. And it's the same thing that happened after Tay came back from his injury last year too. And you just go, pattern? I don't know. Maybe?
Well, if it is any sort of a pattern, even the beginnings of one, I think LaFleur will catch it and turn it around. It's not going to happen next year.
Oh, and it's not going to happen next week. And they'll figure it out. And they better figure it out next week because going into next week, it's like going against Atlanta's defense. Like you can't take those gifts and not be able to figure it out for sure. But we'll get into that later in the show.
Oh yes,
stick around.
Yeah, the Packers, including playoffs, they are pretty impressive under Matt LaFleur. 18-5, but when they lose huge, and the average margin of defeat is around 19.2 points, with a 34-27 defeat at the hands of the Eagles last year.
Oh, by the way, remember that Eagles game? We couldn't score from the 1 yard line.
Yeah, and see, at least it appears we have fixed that. We've got all sorts of running backs we can line up to do there. And yes, we don't need to be reminded about the loss twice to the Niners in 1 year, the Chargers in the same year, now Tampa Bay, and of course the year before it was still Mike McCarthy when we came out to LA to play the Rams. But yeah, so even LaFleur, did he really in his press conference say something along the lines of, well, when you practice like crap, you play like crap?
It's kind of what I picked up on.
Yeah, so...
But if you practice like crap, whose fault is that? Is it the player's fault or is it the coach's fault? I've always wondered that.
I think it's the podcaster's fault. We should take full responsibility.
Yep. Sorry, we weren't out there, being overly aggressive with our voices on the field to get them energized, ready to go. No, I think the big question, though, is like, what happened to the O-line? The O-line was like, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been touched. He doesn't even need to have a wash machine because he hasn't gotten any grass stains on his uniform all year, is all we heard for the first 4 weeks. And then this week, we get, Bakhtiari goes down and the whole O-line falls apart.
The O-line was actually already not very good, even when Bakhtiari was fine. But when he went out, I was like, oh, we're really in trouble now.
Well, I think the big thing here, too, is this is like the number one defense in the NFL. right now. They are number one against the run, 64 yards a game on average, and they're 12 against the pass. So if you're going to run into a brick wall, this and the steel curtain up there in Pittsburgh right now with the 5-0 Steelers, I think these are the two defenses that you're going to have to go like, I got to come up with a different kind of game plan in order to make it happen. And I think that that's one thing that kind of fell apart here, because if you had such great opportunities running backs out of the backfield the week before the bye, and you know that this is going to be a number one run defense, I can't run. I mean, I have to run the ball, right, to throw them off guard, but I don't keep going back to the run constantly. I try to figure out how to do play action. I figure out how to do quick out screens, or I figure out a way to do, the tight end is a lead blocker and it's a quick out to a running back, as the blitz is coming on. And I got to be willing to take the hit and still deliver the ball at the same time, very much like Russell Wilson is doing up in Seattle. So I think that's the big thing here is like, was this the wrong game plan for such a dominant defense? I don't know.
That's a great question. I don't think we'll know unless we meet up with them again in the playoffs later on. But and I don't know if this is due to the offensive line issues that we were having pretty much all day, but I'm just wondering if maybe our offense should stop waiting until the play clock is at 1 or 2 seconds every single play before hiking the ball.
See, this is where I completely disagree with Wayne. There's such benefit for using all of the time. One, because the clock is running most of the time, so you're taking time off the clock, which means Tom Brady's not on the field. Two, you get a better look at what is the defense actually throwing at me. So who's the blitzer? Where are the gaps being filled? What can I check down to and switch out the plays? I think where maybe the disadvantage in this particular contest was because you had so many secondary weapons in there and secondary players in there that switching up the plays and the checkdowns might have been too confusing to do in the moment, as Aaron likes to do, but maybe the personnel wasn't quite up to the task. We'll put it that way.
It just seemed like in this particular case, the Buccaneers knew that we were going to wait until it was 1 or 2 seconds on the play clock. And so they didn't even, do much in the way of, being offsides or worrying. They're like, we're just going to chill because we know Aaron's going to waste 43 seconds of the play clock and then go. It usually works great, but this week, I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe that's a thing, that you say it that way. Like maybe it is a thing where people have gotten used to the fact that Rodgers is going to wait till 2, so that means we can't get as many offside jumps as we usually got in the past. So maybe if he does switch it up, let's say, hike it at 20 or hike it at 10 or hike it at 7, and just really mess with their minds, I think that might be a new way to wrinkle the game a little bit, potentially.
Yeah, got to keep them on their toes. And this just in, Troy, Ndamukong Suh is still a dirty player. That guy's just a rotten apple. He's jealous of the Packers' successes.
Fake news.
He's dirty. He got one flag, I believe, thrown on him, and yet he threw Aaron Rodgers to the ground. If Clay Matthews had done that with the Packers 3 years ago, he would have been ejected out of the game. Yeah,
totally. No, he's a dirty player. He's always been a dirty player. I still question the hit in the end zone. I still question that there was like another one where he clearly came in after the ball was released and just landed with all of his weight on top of Rodgers. So no, I don't like the guy. I've never liked the guy. But the bigger question, Wayne, is do you know the last time that Rodgers and Suh actually faced off?
No, I was trying to figure that out while reading Aaron Rodgers' lips after one of those hits. He said a lot of bad words.
I think he said, hey, you were a lot nicer to me when we played the Rams in 2018 in Southern California, where they lost 29-27. Oh, I'm sorry, Wayne. I didn't mean to bring up such bad memories.
Well, you were there too.
I was there. But that was the last time Aaron Rodgers and Suh played each other, and they were perfectly fine in that contest. There was no squabbles or back and forth or anything.
Interesting. I didn't even remember that Suh was part of the Rams that season. Huh.
Yeah. So interesting how all of a sudden it comes back into a chance to play him more often again, and maybe it's Brady or something, and he just went back to his old lion ways.
That could be. And David Bakhtiari, I guess his injury, although it looked terrible at the time, Coach LaFleur made it sound like he's going to be all right. And, we might even see him again this week, which we need him badly.
Still no word, though, officially, right? Last I saw, it was still
right.
Nothing's speculation. They were waiting on some stuff. And so hopefully tomorrow's news cycle, when you're hearing this podcast, will be old news, because then we'll have official word on what's up with Bakhtiari, which would be great.
Yeah, but hey, J.K. Scott, man, he got a workout in that game. Good for him.
Oh, bad for us, though.
True. I haven't seen that many punts in a Packers game in a long time.
Well, I would say J.K. in the last 2 seasons, he averaged 5 punts a game, about 70-some for the entire season. And this year, he's averaging just 2.5. So if this tells you anything about how poor this game was, these are the number of punts from J.K. Scott this season so far. First game 1, second game 3, that was against the Lions. Third game 1, fourth game 2. This game, he had a whopping 7. 7.
Wow.
I really wanted it to be 9, so I could be like 9 times.
Well, thank goodness it wasn't 9. It probably would have been if it wasn't for a couple of interceptions that happened in the game.
In the last 2 games, J.K. Scott has punted 9 times.
I'm glad you got to share that with everybody.
Math on the podcast.
The question becomes, what does this loss mean?
I think it means exactly what Aaron said in the post-game press conference. It's a wake-up call. You can't rest on your laurels, and you just really need to figure out a way to recover and rebound. And I think that's what this week is all about with the Houston Texans. It's about how do we rebound from a difficult loss. And if we can rebound from a difficult loss and look like the team that was here in weeks 1 through 4, then the season's fine. If you look like the team that showed up to Tampa Bay 2 weeks in a row, well, then we got some problems to talk about.
Okay. And talking about stuff, listener feedback. We'd love to hear from you, especially after a Packers game. Give us a call at 920-3PACK-GO, or from anywhere in the world. Focus and gather your thoughts. Record your message on your phone or your laptop. Attach it to an email, and you can email it to us at feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com.
And remember, the deadline to get your voice messages in to be part of the next podcast is Sunday night at midnight Central, since we have a noon game coming up this Sunday. Thanks for all your support as always, and go Pack Go. So let's hear our first voicemail this week from our friend Andre in LA.
Go Pack Go! Go Pack Go! What a bummer of a game. Man. I'm calling now because I don't want it to keep me up all night, but man, what a disappointment. Started off good and it just, the wheel fell off shockingly quick. It was, I don't know. You know what? Rather than harp on with, Aaron Rodgers didn't look sharp, maybe it was too much trying to feed Devontae Adams. I don't know what, coming off a bye week, it's not how I would have preferred to see him. Defense also was not overly impressive, but you know what? They were 4-0. One loss isn't going to kill us. We got a tough game next week against Seattle, I believe. So just, you know what? It stinks today, Packer fans, but wash it off. Get your calls in now. That way you don't think about it all night. And tomorrow's a new start for another game next week. So. As always, green and gold, so I'm dead and gold. Love you guys. Go, Pat, go!
Andre, man. I always wonder, is it because I said something to Andre back in the day, like he needed more excitement, that he started doing the exciting thing, or is this a Scott thing? That's what I've been trying to figure that out as I've been listening to the podcast.
I believe a listener researched that and listened to some old episodes. And I guess one of the first episodes with Scott, he was like, oh, Andre, that Go Pack Go, it could really use some work. And now look, Andre bringing a strong Go Pack Go even in a loss. That's not easy to do.
It is a pure amazement that you can muster up that energy, since I couldn't even finish the game, Andre. So kudos to you, my friend. But I love your observations, because I agree with you. It's too much feeding Tay. 100%. It is locked on, and we're not looking at the rest of the field at the end of the day. And it just goes to show. I mean, come on. 16 completions on 35 passing attempts for 107 total yards. I mean, that is I think that's the worst game in Rodgers' career, to be quite honest. I don't know if there is one worse than that.
Not one without an injury that I can think of, but it was just unbelievable. And Andre, I'm glad that you were able to call. It was almost right after the game, and you're right. That way you don't have to think about it all night, and now we can kind of move forward.
The game is done, and we're 4-1. If you're feeling low, let your support show. Say, go, Pack, go. Bleed green and gold until you're dead and cold. But if you're unable to cheer and you need an ear, dial 920. 3-Pack, go. So pick up your head. This season's not dead. Just start nice and slow and let it naturally grow. Go, Pack, go. As fans, we unite this unfortunate night. Our team we support and we'd never abort. Go, Pack, go. Gents, we're 4-1, but the season's not done. This is 1265 fan. Packers lose, but it's not goodbye.
Excellent. Thank you so much for another beautifully poetic and uplifting call to help get everything cleaned out and turned around and put back on track. We greatly appreciate hearing from you, 1265 fan. What do you think, Sir Troy?
I think I'm a poet, but worried when Rodgers throws it. The O-line was light, and I can't find Tay in my sight. The Texans are next. Hopefully we can be our best.
Oh, wow. That says a lot. So thank you again for calling in. Remember, 920-3-PACK-GO after the game this coming week.
Hey guys, Joe in Kentucky. Not a great game. I blame Troy and Buck, but also got to say, Sue is still I hope I can say that. But 4-1, still a good record, so I've got a big go Pack go. Started off good, but we still struggle with tackling on the run. And when we run, the guys try to bounce out, run around. It doesn't seem to work too well. I grew up watching Walter Payton. Nobody runs like that. It was a game of almost. We almost tackled, almost caught. Rodgers almost got the touchdown. The interceptions got under his skin, obviously. It's frustrating to watch all the way through there. But it was good to see Boyle at the end of the game. I'm glad they put him in. We just got to shake it off and, like always, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go indeed. But first, very much first, we have to clear the air here. My name is Troy, and I am not the Troy he is referring to in this phone call.
How can you be sure? Joe.
He said Troy and Joe, or said Troy Buck. So I'm assuming he meant Mr. Aikman. But
yes, I'm glad you cleared things up because I was a little iffy.
I was like, man, I haven't been on the podcast in like a year. What's the deal, Joe? Come on. Hey, I think here's the deal, Joe. Me and you in the booth next time, the 325 game. There you go. We'll get the real Troy and Joe going.
Oh, I like that. Joe made an excellent observation how this was a game of almosts.
Like, we almost were in the booth together, Joe, for this particular game.
And almost tackles and almost
tackling. The tackling is so bad, Wayne. The tackling, you have to, if you hit the guy in the backfield, you have to tackle the guy in the backfield.
Fair enough.
I cannot watch another person literally swing around like it's one of those circles on the, in the physician's office, the little thing where you bring the rings and you pull them over the wire thing to get them to the other side that the kids all play with. And if you touch, you get COVID. Yeah. That thing, that's what it looks like. It's like rings spinning around players when they get into the backfield and they can't tackle somebody. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. They're professional players and that should not happen. So bad. They will get it turned around though, but we're cleaning it out. Yeah, it's cathartic. It's misery loves company and all that stuff, right?
Something like that.
Go Pack, go. Go Pack, go. Dan and Jessica in Denver, Just got done watching quite the letdown. We got served up some humble pie. Hopefully we'll be able to bounce back from this one. Got to keep the faith. One game doesn't define a season. We'll come back stronger. We'll come back better. Go Pack, go. Have a great day, guys.
Dan, Jessica, at least you can say that the Broncos had a great week. They beat the Patriots, and that's always something to celebrate.
That was quite the surprise, and always good to hear from Dan and Jessica. Humble pie. It was very humbling. I think I was feeling as overconfident as the Packers were at the beginning of the game, but not at the end.
I don't understand why they call it humble pie personally, because I love pie, any kind of pie. Pie is good. I'm hungry now.
I love chocolate cream pie. Oh, chilled.
Apple pie, pumpkin pie, peach pie. But is peach pie really just peach clobber that it just hasn't been mashed up yet?
I think so, unless you do it just right. I'm pretty sure. But excellent point that one game does not define a season. It's just we have to get through it. And
unless that game is the NFC Championship game twice. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud?
Oh, my gosh. I'm feeling triggered.
Or has it been 3 times? I can't remember.
Hey, Wayne and Scott, it's Megan and Pete.
Yo.
I'm trying to bring the enthusiasm, but it was a little bit of a downer, and unfortunately, it didn't seem like we ever got in sync at all. I mean, 3 quarters without points, and just a lot of passes that were dropped, and I don't know. There could be a lot of reasons, but it could just be that they had an off week, and it doesn't matter. Although I was going to say it doesn't matter because green and gold's hot and dead and cold, which I am, but I am a little bit confused about where the defense was. I felt like I saw Jair a few times way up in front by the D line, ran all the way up. But other than that, it was Amos almost got that pick, but where was the O-line protecting Aaron from the 4 sacks or something? And where was the D-line stopping anyone? And even I know Kevin King was out. I don't know. I just don't know. I still freaking love them, and I still watched until there were 0 seconds left. But I don't doubt them. I think Aaron's post-game interview was really use this as kind of leverage to get better and whatever. I feel like this is such a downer message. I just need to say go. Okay, I need to pass the phone to Peter. I'm going to get cut off by the buzzer.
Yo, we encountered a little adversity, I think it's safe to say. A little bit of everything. Injuries, penalties, uncharacteristic throws, you name it. But it's your reaction to adversity, not the adversity itself, that determines your life story. And I feel like that's applicable here. And I'm excited to see what comes next.
And also, we have to give a shout out to Devontae for coming back and just literally not missing a beat. I know he caught a pass or two, maybe it was out of bounds, but he caught that one down midfield, and it looked like it was slipping a foot or 2 feet out of his hands, and he caught it anyways. And he just came back stronger than ever, and I did kind of feel sad for the run game. They were definitely stopped, but it was good to have Devontae and Kenny back, and yeah. All the best for D-Bach. We're going to miss you. Don't leave us for too long.
See recovery, my man.
Yes, we need you. Love you guys. Love the podcast. We still love green and gold till we're dead and cold, baby.
Load of the soil, baby.
Let's go.
Megan, Pete, this is Scott from the future when I have a completely different voice, or maybe the past when I hadn't gone through puberty yet. Good to hear from you, Megan and Pete, as always. This is Troy, not Scott, unfortunately, this week, but I will definitely pass along to Scott your love and awesome friendship that you have because you're a fan of this podcast and a fan of our Green Bay Packers. But we got to talk about the defense. This is the second caller, Wayne, that has said the defense was poor this week, and I thought this is probably the best the run defense looked, even though we did give up, I think it was 150 some yards on the ground, but I think this was the best the run defense looked all year so far. Am I wrong? I know the secondary didn't look so great.
And I think that's it. And they are part of the defense, and the fact we let the Buccaneers get so many points has to count against the defense.
But even the passing yards, there's only 166 passing yards. Is that true?
I don't know. I just scoreboard.
I mean, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of offense on that offensive side of the ball. I mean, it's 300 yards, in total, a little bit over 300 yards, but you got to remember that it was the pick sixes, and the pick sixes deep in the red zone. So I think that where the score was run up, I think 14 points are attributable to turnovers specifically, with not a lot of offense to begin with. And if you give the ball to somebody within the 20, within the red zone to start, it's pretty much guaranteed points at that point.
And like Megan and Pete, I did watch every second of that game, for better or worse.
What are you saying? I feel like you're like scolding me or shaming me or something now.
No, I'm just agreeing with the listeners. But yeah, the drop passes, in addition to some of the throws that were not really catchable, it'll be turned around, and I can't wait to see it on Sunday if I can find a place to watch the game, because it's not airing.
I mean, I guess I'm glad Tay is back, because yes, he is a good receiver, but in this game he was off big time. I have to disagree with Megan on that one. I mean, out of bounds, tip passes, not coming back on that back shoulder throw because the guy literally knew that Rodgers telegraphed that the whole way. There were just a lot of miscues from Tay this week, I think, also. So I don't know if this was necessarily the best Tay has been, to be honest.
Hey guys, Mark from New Lisbon. I almost didn't call because I didn't want to be too negative, but a tough loss. I'm pretty sure we'll bounce back against Houston next week, and Rodgers will have a better game. But I think the one thing that stood out in the game was just how teams can out-physical us. I mean, if you look at both San Francisco games last year, they just took it to us in the trenches. And that's exactly what Tampa Bay did. I mean, our offense really struggled. They have a really good defense. But our O-line, which had been praised through the first 4 games, did not play well. So, yeah, physical teams just eat us up. I mean, they scored 38 straight points against us. I mean, that's just being dominated. So, chalk it up to a bad game on the road. Rodgers historically has never played well in Raymond James Stadium. So, I also thought when they were up 10-0, they were up 10-0. They had the ball, a chance to go up 17-0, and they went 3 and out. They just threw 2 deep passes and another incompletion, and it's like, run the ball and establish that. And so it's almost like when they got up, they got a little cocky, and I think Tampa Bay might have noticed that. But anyway, there were some good things. I think Chris Barnes is going to be a good linebacker for us, number 51. We need some playmakers on defense. And I just think our defense will bounce back. They just have to be more physical. But you would think with Clark back that they were going to be better. But you got to give credit to Tampa Bay. And I think we'll bounce back next week in Houston. It's a big game. I think we really have to show that we can recover. And hopefully Bakhtiari will be healthy as well. But I'm sure some Packer fans are ready to jump off the ledge, but it's only one game. Hard to believe the Bears are in first place. But, we'll bounce back against Houston next week. So go Pack, go, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much, Mark, for calling that in. And, do you think it's mostly just extra physical teams, like Mark said, that just beat us up all day?
I don't know if it's the physicality of it all or if it was just the fact that there were fans. I mean, all of a sudden there's like people yelling at me and I'm like, whoa, that's different. It could have been the heat, right? 82 degrees down there. It was pretty warm compared to what it was in Green Bay.
Yeah, it was interesting that the Buccaneers chose to wear their white away jerseys to make us, quote unquote, suffer in the dark green jerseys.
I think that's a brilliant move, to be quite honest. That's like the one unknown rule of the NFL that people don't know, is that the home team can pick which jersey that they want to wear for their home game. I think that's just a brilliant move, to be quite honest.
Well, it's going to be interesting the next time the Cowboys take the field if they can choose to wear like Chiefs jerseys.
Did the Cowboys take the field this week? Oh, so
too soon.
No, but maybe the Packers just had the flu this week.
Yeah, I've heard that can happen sometimes. Did happen last year. 38 unanswered points, though, after going up 10-0, because when Scott got on the plane with his stepfather to bring him back home, he had seen the first couple of drives and things were looking pretty good. And then he got off the plane and turned his phone back on and wondered, Wayne, what the hell happened?
But remember, 14 of those, again, are off of the turnovers.
Yeah,
so really, the offense itself only scored 24 points, which most times a 24-point game is totally winnable, right? So I think we have to keep that in perspective, is that without the turnovers, this game is a completely different contest.
Turnovers can kill you.
Sure do.
And to Mark's point about AR-12 and how he plays at Raymond James Stadium, here's hoping that when we're in the Super Bowl this year, which I believe is at Raymond James Stadium, AR-12 is going to be lighting it up.
Part of me wonders if that was going through Aaron's head during the course of the game at all.
I don't know.
But yeah, I thought Barnes played exceptionally well. I mean, I was like, who's 51? Who's that?
Yeah, we'll take all the help we can get.
So next man up. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it looks like the offensive line.
We also got a few interesting comments about the game in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group at packerscommunity.com.
Miguel said, from the Opposites Attract podcast, mind you, check that out in any podcast player. We should put Jordan Love in to stop the run.
I'm trying to envision that.
I'm not seeing it. I think maybe we could put Jordan Love in order to play safety because Josh Jackson doesn't know how to.
Oh, snap.
I mean, that pass interference call, so bad. So bad.
That was not needed at that particular time for sure.
Clearly, Josh Jackson does not listen to the Packers Fan Podcast because I don't know how many times on this show I have literally read the rule out loud that you must be turning and playing the ball in order to be not considered for pass interference.
I could hear that coming into my head from your voice, even watching the Cowboys game last night. I was like,
it was probably more like, turn around, you blah, 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 blah.
Something along those lines. And Aaron Peterson had an interesting comment that I had to seek enlightenment from him as well as from you. Aaron Peterson posted, "This is what happens when you pull a hingle, Rodgers."
And clearly he was referring to the touchdown dance that Troy Buck had no idea what the hell it was on the broadcast. They're like, well, that was different. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you guys that uncultured, Troy Buck? You're the number one crew. You should know what the hell a Hingle McCringleberry triple pump looks like. This is Key and Peele. These are the ultimate comedians from Comedy Central. You should know every single thing about their repertoire. The only problem, Aaron, is that you didn't get the touchdown. So to put it in perspective for you that you might understand, you don't deserve to do the triple pump, Ron. But clever of you to actually think about it in the moment, especially when you're looking at a national audience with a 325 game. Probably not the most family PC move for the NFL.
I think Aaron Rodgers has given up being family PC lately.
Oh, was that what he said when he talked to Dominic Sue?
Yeah, well, there was that too. It's like, I'm not a professional lip reader. I don't get paid to do it, but I could tell what he said to Ndamukong, and I was thinking the same thing. So whatever. You
know how they do the bad lip readings of the NFL every year?
Oh my goodness.
I'm wondering if the case of that one, they actually say what it actually is. That would be fun. Good times. Well, we did get some emails into the email box as well. My good friend Steven down here in enemy territory, living very close to me over in Palos Park, Illinois. What the heck, Packers? Oh, the only good period for them was the first quarter, and they could not score again. What is wrong with Aaron Rodgers? He went back to himself from last year, it looked like, having that look on his face when he was thinking, what's wrong with you guys? When really he probably should be saying, what's wrong with me? But I added that part. Okay, I'm going to check out for now, but I hope the Packers get their magic back in time for the Houston Texans, where we could be looking at 4-2. Oh my gosh, 4-2. That would be horrid. Steven.
We cannot be looking at 4-2. And Steven's email was much longer, but after I did the edit, delete of all the cursing, this is what we have. It was like
censored it, much like the Fox broadcast.
Something along those lines. Also, hey guys, Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher from Green Bay, Wisconsin. What happened to our high-riding Packers? I'll tell you what happened. complacency. It's the downfall of the good. And, I think that's exactly what happened, even though we were only 4 games into the season. Caleb continues, and company. We actually should send Tom Brady and his staff a big thank you for the wake-up call. It's like setting your alarm clock when you're super tired, and now is the time for self-assessment. Coach LaFleur and staff have put together a good team and game plans, but we've let the rug get pulled out from under us. Another downfall was our offensive line. They couldn't stop the Bucs defense when they came after Rodgers, and there were quite a few no calls on the Bucs when they threw Rodgers to the ground. No matter what happens, we will never stop wearing green and gold until the colors fade, and we'll always be proud of our 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. Thank you very much, Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher. Also, trying to find out where to lay the fault. So the Facebook poll this week, as well as in Twitter at Packers Fan Pod, what the heck happened out there? And the options were the offensive line fell apart, the Packers were rusty after the bye week, Tampa's defense was just playing ready for us, or the Packers were just overconfident. And Troy, you'd be surprised how many people just replied, all of it.
Pretty much, it's a good summary of the 4 quarters.
It was all of it.
Yeah, in quarter 1, we were a little overconfident. In quarter 2, the offensive line fell apart. In 3, the Packers were rusty, and then in quarter 4, the defense just dominated. I think, because I didn't see the fourth quarter.
They did. So.
We also had some comments from the poll. Janelle said, I feel like this happens to us every year off of the bye week. Stinks it happened to a team with the GOAT, Tom Brady.
Well put, Janelle. And David says, Rodgers fell apart and the team followed. I was envisioning the opening line from the Dark Tower series. The man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. But now it's Rodgers fell apart and the team followed.
I'm glad you said that, because I was like, why have I heard that line before?
Yeah, exactly. Ka.
Oh, my gosh. Dicta said, ouch, this one hurt. Not sure what happened. Completely off day across the board. Offense felt out of sync and too forced. Bucks D was on fire. I hope the Bakhtiari is okay. And wrapping it up, Aaron Peterson, superfan, said, this looked like the Packers of all last year. Quarter of a game, great team, and then 3 quarters of sloppy football. It was ugly. UGLY. You ain't got no alibi. But the bye most likely is where the rust and overconfidence came from. You like how I tied those together?
Sounds perfect. Now that we've cleaned that out and we're back to our rose-colored glasses, your 4-1 Green Bay Packers are heading to Houston to play the 1-5 Texans Sunday, October 25th at 1 p.m. Central, back to the good old 1 p.m. Central, or 12 noon Central, 12 noon. The Packers lead the all-time series against the Texans 3-1, which means we have not played them very many times. And Houston Texan J.J. Watt is from, how do you pronounce that?
Waukesha.
Waukesha, Wisconsin. So there's that.
No, it's called It's Waukesha.
Troy, messing with me again. So that's about all that's tied together in the game. If Houston opens up the roof, it'll be about 88 degrees, sunny and warm. But odds are the roof's going to be closed, and whatever they want the temperature to be, it will be.
Yeah, let's just hope the hurricane season is over.
That would be nice.
Because, man, it was windy in Tampa. Holy cow.
That was unbelievable. I don't think I've hardly ever seen wind like that at a football game in Tampa.
Which could have been part of the challenge, too, with throwing the ball, because Aaron's throwing it downfield and it would carry or it'd be short or just be off a little bit. So maybe the wind did play a little bit of a factor in the passing game.
And I just hope when we play in the Super Bowl there this year, they get rid of that stupid pirate ship.
The pirate ship is cool.
Nah.
I do like it. Imagine what it's going to look like for the Super Bowl. I can't wait.
So, Troy, the question becomes, how are the Packers going to beat the Houston Texans and not fall to 4-2?
Well, it's funny. So you guys aren't going to be able to see this, but in the document that Wayne and I are working off of here to do the podcast, I put 2 stat lines that are about quarterbacks. And I'm curious if Wayne, looking at these stat lines, if you could tell me which one is Aaron Rodgers' line and which one is Deshaun Watson's line.
Well, 2 things come to mind. 1, that's a lot of numbers. And 2, They're very similar numbers in a lot of the categories. I will just guess and say the second one is Aaron Rodgers.
Well, they would be incorrect. The second one is Deshaun Watson's.
Dang it.
Because it has a lot more completions and attempts because he's played, 6 games versus Aaron Rodgers 5.
That'll do it.
Your observation is absolutely spot on because Deshaun Watson is the entire team. So if we can contain Deshaun Watson, we can pretty much seal this one in the bag because when you look at Deshaun Watson's stat line, he's pretty much the same as Aaron Rodgers down the board. More yards, obviously because he has an extra game under his belt, but he's beating Rodgers at this point by over 400 yards in total. His completion percentage is better than Rodgers at 68.5%. He's also thrown 3 touchdowns, equaling Rodgers. 5 picks is the only thing really against Watson at this point. When you look at their quarterback ratings, Rodgers is sitting at 109 and Watson is sitting at 107. So pretty much even matchup when you talk about quarterback versus quarter. Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. We're not supposed to. Quarterbacks don't play quarterbacks. Quarterbacks play defenses.
Oh, that changes everything because the Texans are 1-5. And with those types of quarterback numbers, you would think they'd have at least 3 victories.
Yeah, because in order to win, you need a defense, and the Houston Texans do not have one.
Oh, thank goodness.
Number 2 key to the game is score early and score often. The Titans rolled up 600 yards against the pathetic defense last week. 600 yards, and they had COVID. Right? The Tennessee COVID Titans. If they can roll up 600 yards, I'm pretty sure we can roll up 600 yards fairly easily. So if Rodgers and our offense looks like the offense from before the bye week, we should be in pretty good shape. But I think the same concept goes for this week for our third key to the game, which is Jaire Alexander did what he did, right? He shut down Mike Evans. So I think he did his job last week. I mean, it didn't seem like Alexander was part of the game because he was just that good shutting down Mike Evans and making Brady throw somewhere else. So we have to do the same thing with Cooks. Just has to basically know what size underwear he wears and what color it is and all that other fun stuff and force Deshaun to throw to other players on the field or go to Johnson in the run game.
Or have Deshaun Watson throw to some Packers would be even nicer.
And I'd really like the Packers to stop playing against people that are on my fantasy team because I have Johnson and I have to figure out if I'm going to play him or not now.
I cannot give you any fantasy advice. It would do you no good.
What do you think? We going to win?
Yes, I think we're going to win. I'm going to have you weigh in with your score prediction. I'm not feeling the vibes of overconfidence from you. I think the Packers are going to win 24-18. And Scott texted his score and he said, "Oh, don't forget to share my prediction so we can keep the wager fun alive." Scott predicts Packers 28, Texans 17.
Apparently you didn't listen to my keys to the game when I said the defense sucks because neither of you guys sound very confident. I said Packers 33, Texans 21.
Whoa, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. A mad Aaron Rodgers on a rebound is the best Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. This is the medicine that will help them out. Okay, so Scott says 28-17. Troy says 33-21. And I'll say 24-18. I'm just thankful that all three of us are picking a Packers victory. We're not going to be 4-2.
Oh, gosh, no. Not this week.
Ain't going to happen. In the NFC North, because the Bears haven't had their bye week yet, they are 5-1, but, they still, Packers are 4-1. Surprisingly, the Lions are 2-3, and the Vikings are 1-5. That's too bad.
How bad does it have to feel for the Vikings to be the team that gave Atlanta a W? So bad. What did he have? 3 picks this week? 3 picks? Oh my gosh.
Insane.
I would say this. Dalvin Cook did go out during the game. So that obviously hinders the Minnesota offense pretty quickly when Cook is not in there. And then I don't think he'll be playing because he's got the bye week. So, yeah. Hopefully Cook comes back because he's on my fantasy team too.
Oh my goodness. Troy's got all sorts of enemy players.
Oh my God, it's such a bad year. It's probably why I'm 2-3 right now.
And a little slap happy. I have a question for you though.
Sure.
How about them Cowboys?
Oh man.
And the Cardinals just rolled them. which was nice to see.
Well, I took 2 years off in order to build the most awesome coaching staff and the awesome coaching plan that I'm going to put into effect, right? And then I'm going to be handed Ezekiel Elliott, and I'm going to be handed Dak Prescott. And yeah, it's sad that what happened to Dak happened. But at the same time, it's like, if your offensive system's that good, anybody should be able to plug into it and go with it, Mike. Come on.
And Ezekiel Elliott loves dropping the ball lately. Oh,
literally.
man.
That wasn't a figurative. That's literally dropping the ball.
Yeah, twice. So, what else is going on around the NFL? Any highlights jump out at you, or lowlights, or just insanity?
Oh, yeah. Well, Derrick Henry, with another 200-yard rushing game for the Tennessee Titans. But Derrick Henry's just having a massive career. Like, good on him, and just love the whole way they're using him down there in Tennessee for sure. The Browns, much like the Packers, come down to earth this week. Pitt and Baltimore both have outscored the Browns 76-13. So even though they're sitting with a pretty decent record over there in Cleveland, when you look up at Pitt with 5-0, and then you have Baltimore right on the heels with Lamar Jackson being able to do what Lamar does. I mean, 76-13 says you got to win your division. It's important to win the division, and right now, can't do that. Which brings us to Pittsburgh with the Steel Curtain being back. I mean, really 5-0, and all while stopping the best rushing offense in football this past week. Like, hands down, like, Pittsburgh defense is for real. And now Philly has just instituted for the first time in NFL history the who's not injured list.
Oh, nice. That's the shorter list?
That is the shorter list in Philadelphia as Miles Sanders went down. I think there's only Carson Wentz and Jason Kelsey are the only two normal offensive players, quote unquote starters, that are left for the offense in Philadelphia. How brutal is that story right now?
Wow.
And we play the East this year, don't we? Because that would be no, we play the South. So sad.
Yeah, the East would be a good division to play this year because somebody's going to win that division with 7 wins, maybe even 6 wins.
6, I think, is the. I'll place that bet. I'll take 6 to win the division and make the playoffs at 6-10. That tells you that my new setup needs to be enacted 100% if that happens. And the Bears last week at 4-1 were the second worst ranked 4-1 effort behind the 2010 Bears, who, if I remember correctly, went to the NFC Championship and lost to a certain yellow and green team that went on to win the Super Bowl that year. So I think if everything goes according to plan, then this is pretty much the same script. I mean, we did play the Bears in Week 17 that year, and we play the Bears in Week 17 this year. So enjoy it while it lasts, Chicago, because you won't be in first place long.
Nope.
And this year you will not be playing in the wild card from behind to knock you out. We'll be playing from Lambeau Field.
Oh, yeah. Well, over the past week, I finished the audiobook that I was hired to narrate and got paid for it. So that was a nice bright spot for last week. I don't have any other podcasting things going on right now besides the Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. What are you working on these days, Troy?
We are back in black, the blacklist, that is. We are doing a season 7 rewatch currently, where we've actually talked to the writers and the actors and the creator of the show, and we're publishing those interviews as kind of director commentary, Mystery Science 3000 theater type of thing, where you basically listen to the podcast as you watch the episode. We don't talk during the episode; we talk at the commercial break. But you can hear some really interesting behind-the-scenes stuff about the final episodes of Season 7, right before the COVID shutdown happened. And then we'll be gearing up for Season 8 when it kicks off November 13th at 8/7 Central on NBC here in the States.
So they've been able to get back to filming and doing special social distancing. Is it going to look different when we see it? Have you seen any footage?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, everybody gets tested regularly. They wear the face shields and face masks when they're not on camera, but for the most part, it seems like everything's shooting like normal. Crew and stuff obviously wear face masks all the time, but yeah, they've been back shooting in New York now for a week. So
okay, so the cast and crew are not partying with the Tennessee Titans; they're doing the right things.
I mean, Cam Newton could take a train down on the night, from Boston, possible, but Well, we appreciate everything you do here for the Packers Fan Podcast and our value for value model. That's right. If you like what you hear, then you give us some money for us to keep doing it week in and week out like we've been doing since 2011. You can go to patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast, and all of the pledges that you're giving to us are reinvested right back into the show to make it better. That includes our MP3 hosting, our audio editing software, everything that we're using to record on right now as we record the podcast for you. So just a big thank you going out to Bryant, as always, for your generous support at our MVP Willie Wood $24 podcast level. You definitely make it happen, Bryant, each and every week. And we ought to say go Pack Go also to our good friends down there in Texas. Hopefully, maybe you get to go to the game, some of you, against Houston. So AR12 level, $12 a month. Super awesome. And of course, that gets them the ability to do the outro at the end of the show. So if you want to be able to do the outro, give it up at the $12 level.
Also, thank you to the $4 Brett Favre inspired monthly supporters. Go Pack goes to you, Jeff Summerfield and Lawrence Harvey. And at the Curly Lambeau $1 level podcast supporters, Go Pack goes to you as well. Beth Mentic, Hank Davis from the TPE network of podcasts, Remy Lavictoire, the victorious one himself, Matt Haig, and Joe Christensen. And you too can financially support the podcast at a level to match your budget. If it works, maybe even get some cool Packers Fan Podcast logo merchandise at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. And we have to remind you that the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. And remember to have our voicemail feedback hotline number 920-3PACK-GO programmed into your phones, ready to share the excitement from our big win over the Texans, because we're listening.
And if you can't get through on the phone lines because it's so super busy, because Megan and Pete just talk all the time, you can do that over Twitter. Yes, you can hear from at Packers Fan Pod. That's where you could go ahead and message the show. You can also message me at Troy Heinrichs, and you can go ahead and do Wayne over at Wayne Henderson. Tell your friends about the show. I've been great being back this week, Wayne. Thanks so much for having me, Scott. Hope to hear you back next week, because I definitely love listening to you more than I'd like talking about the Packers, because it's more fun being a fan for a change. But willing to come back anytime for all of you great Packers Fan podcast listeners. And with that, we're going to say adieu for now with our good friends from Texas to close out the show. Take it away, Granny Cheese and Company.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go Pack Go!